So good night, everybody, and welcome once again to another Lime Vibe Live podcast. I'm your host, Yari Araman Kemp, here from the very wet and rainy Bahamas, New Providence, Bahamas to be exact. It's been raining all day this Friday, this October 18th, and the weatherman said it's going to be rainy until Monday, the 21st. So I guess this is what we got to be braced for, right? This heavy rain. I guess this is the last throes of the hurricane season, but we'll make it through. Just some rain. They expect a spring tide as well too, but we'll always manage. Like how we always do, we always manage. So thank you for joining me for another Lime Vibe Live podcast. If you have not done so, please like, share, and subscribe to our Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch page. That's Lime Vibe 77. That's Lime Vibe 77 on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. We're starting a bit early tonight because I think it's about time we started a bit earlier because a lot of things have been changing around here. And the time is about to change as well. We're supposed to fall back now. So I guess we can start a bit earlier now in the evenings because it's going to start getting dark a lot earlier now. So yeah. So we're just doing that in anticipation. I think time falls back at the end of October. Let me look and see what time falls back. Time change 24. The time changes on Sunday, November 3rd. So that's next month on the 3rd. Okay, clocks will be turned back 1 hour. So instead of 7:30, this time it'll be 6:30. Okay. But we'll make it though. But thank you for joining me again for the Lime Vibe Live podcast. We have a good show tonight. We have a few things going on tonight. It's a hot Caribbean, especially the French Caribbean. Martinique. The people in Martinique have been up in the streets protesting some cost of living issues. And this has been going on. We spoke about this in the last show as well. But they haven't stopped. If you go to the Caribbean Magazine Plus, our sister website, and you see the story we wrote on Martinique's and their protests, they've been protesting the higher cost of living. And we are asking of whether or not Martinique should go independent, break away from France. They don't need them anymore. I don't think they do. And they're going to be paying more taxes relative to what the French are paying in mainland France. Why the hell would they want to remain a French protectorate? You know, you're not getting served anything. And now the French riot police are in Martinique now. And so, this is what they have to deal with. Okay? And now, the place is in an uproar. I mean, it's madness over there. If you go to the Caribbean Magazine Plus, and you would see the story that we wrote. And we also have some videos, some choice videos as well from Martinique that shows the people in the streets just going wild, going hog wild in the streets. And of course, it kicked off a bit more when the government reimposed a curfew between 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. And so now it's been extended to October 21st, which is this Monday. Okay? So the curfew has been extended to this Monday, October 21st. And, people aren't happy with it. They've been protesting up and down, back into the streets. This cost of living increase, and people are upset. I think these are the first waves of, the independence movement in Martinique, They're going to need their own country. And they're going to have to break away from the French government. Now, 2 or 3 things they have to take into consideration if they're going to go this route. Remember Haiti? Well, it's a bit different than Haiti, but the reason why Haiti could not get a ground up, especially in the 20th century, is because they couldn't speak English. And no American cared to go there and learn to speak Creole and work with the people because they couldn't speak English. That's a huge barrier right there within itself. Believe that or not. Okay? And when you break away from France, you're not going to expect any help from France after that. Look at what they did to Haiti. Case in point, Haiti. And so you're going to have to do this on your own, Martinique. And you're going to have to get really smart about this. You're going to have to decide whether or not you want to move this country forward or whether you want to stay under the boot of France. That's really where it is right now. And I can't tell you anything else other than that. So, God go with you, Martinique, because at the end of the day, you're going to have to keep the country at peace. And whether or not you want to be with France or not is up to you. But I say go independent because you're not really getting anything from France in any event. The biggest trading partner that you possibly could have is right next door in the United States. And so, really, do you need France? Do you really need France? Think about it. And then there's another protest going on in Dominica, which was a former French protectorate that the English took over. And they still speak, Creole in Dominica as well. We have some truckers, the Dominica Tipper Truckers Association. They've been protesting the lack of wages they've been receiving for doing the work at the airport road from the Chinese contractors that are building the airport. And they have had the streets blocked off from the airport road in Canefield and going to and from the airport, and they have been in mass protests. And on top of that, Roosevelt scared the Prime Minister of Dominica. He's back at it again. He's brutalizing his people. but he's spraying them with tear gas, and he's bringing in all the riot police, and he's been arresting people and having his police officers arrest people and harass people in Dominica. Something's wrong with Skerritt, man. He goes overboard with his police brutality. And we've covered this for the past 6 or 7 years or so. We once saw a video where Skerritt's police, I would say, shot a man with a rubber bullet, point blank, wham! The man was retreating, actually. The man was getting away from the police officers, and he shot the man right there. At that time, we did not know it was a rubber bullet, because I guess you can imagine, looking at the video and seeing the police just shot this man point blank. It wasn't until afterwards that we saw the aftermath of the video that we realized that it was a rubber bullet. Thank God the man was okay. He just stung a bit. And he's okay, and he survived that. But that was an amazing time, man. I also saw a video in Dominica as well where the police officer jumping out of his vehicle to punch a man in the face. The punch a man just standing in the road in his face. This is crazy, man. These are your own black people, Mrs. Skerritt. How could you be, brutalizing them in that fashion, man? You have to really think about these things, what you're doing, Mrs. Skerritt, unless you're going crazy again. And the thing about with Dominica is that they have no viable opposition. The opposition is weak. The last election, they had a woman that was running, and she was deciding not to actually put up a candidate, not put up an actual slate of candidates. Yes, that happened. In Dominica's last election, the opposition was contemplating not putting up a slate of candidates, say she doesn't want to compete in an election that she says is rigged. I say, no, you have to actually put up candidates. You don't know what the people in Dominica are thinking. You don't know what they're thinking. And I spoke to her. I spoke to the opposition leader at the time, and she said she's not putting up any slate of candidates. I said, my God, woman, God go with you. Of course, they had to get rid of her very quickly, right? I'm not even sure who the opposition is in Dominica anymore. It was Linton, and then I think now it's what's the gentleman's name? He was a former IMF economist. I can't recall his name right now, but they have a new gentleman right now who's the opposition leader in Dominica, and he's been under fire as well. He's been under Skerritt scrutiny as well, fomenting riots and fomenting dissent in the country. It was a wild time in Dominica, man. I wish those truckers well. They want more than the $85 per load that they're getting from the Chinese contractors. And you know something? I would pay them, because they are your people. You want to let the Chinese keep all the money? Come on, man, Skerritt. Don't be a fool. But anyway, you've been running Dominica for a while now. And so you know exactly how to keep these people in control. You know exactly how to keep in power. So I guess you probably know what you're doing. And we also have some other news from the Bahamas. Sir Leonard Blavatnik, a British billionaire, once the former richest man in Britain. He has made a huge investment in the Bahamas. The Bahamas Four Seasons Resort at the Ocean Club over Paradise Island. And they're spending over $275 million through a company called Two Roads Development to help to renovate and to reinvigorate the Four Seasons Resort in Paradise Island. Okay, this man, he is a multi-billionaire. He's a former Russian oligarch, and he left Russia. Now he finds residence in Britain and the United States. He has dual British and American citizenship, and he's spending his money very, very liberally here in the Bahamas. And we thank him for that. They had a signing of a heads of agreement this Tuesday gone. And they signed a $275 million agreement to renovate the luxury Four Seasons Resort in Paradise Island. That's amazing news. But it doesn't come without its controversy. Apparently, Blavatnik has gotten in trouble with blocking off beach access to all the vendors that frequent the beach over on Paradise Island. There's a beach called Cabbage Beach. It's a very coveted beach, beautiful beach. And there are a lot of vendors and a lot of Bahamians that use that beach over on Paradise Island. And he's built a fence around it. And last year, protesters tore down the fence and say, you're not building a fence and blocking access to this beach. And so that beach has been open ever since. Right? But now, Blavatnik bought the property from the Atlantis Resort. And they were quick to offload that because they were tired of not having any control over the easement that goes onto the beach. And so they sold Blavatnik a property that they knew was very controversial. And, Bahamian vendors doing it all the time to these foreigners. They sell them land that's not zoned properly or that has dispute. And they're sickening with it, man. They just want to get it off their hand. They're sickening with it, man. I'm tired of it, too. Because I've gone to a lot of physical planning meetings. I've seen investors, foreign investors, buy land that they can't do anything with. It either is not zoned properly for commercial use or is not zoned for residential use, or there's some issues with the height restrictions in some of the buildings on some of the architectural drawings. And so it's being one thing after the other. And so this Blavatnik, I guess he has mind ways. All right. But he said he's not going to block the access to the beach anymore. But now that the construction is going to take place, I wonder what's going to happen now. Okay. He said after he's finished, he's not going to block the access to the beach. But now the construction is going to take place. So we're going to see how the vendor is going to react to this construction now. That's going to be the main issue now. So Leonard Blavatnik, the founder of Access Industries. And I reached out to them before too on the same issue with regard to blocking the access to Cabbage Beach. All right. I reached out to them before. And they say that, they're not going to do anymore. It's their property, blah, 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 blah. They're very sorry. They understand it's a very sensitive issue. And but the protesters still had to go and tear down the fence, though. Yep, the protesters still had to go and tear down the fence. Another story, too, from Trinidad and Tobago. There's just violence and just protests straight across the region, man. Trinidad and Tobago is on pace to getting 700 murders this year, over 700 murders, if you do the calculations. They're up to 418 murders for up to August. And so they're trending very high to over 700 murders a year, if it goes on this rate. And so the families are struggling with the loss straight across Trinidad and Tobago. If you go to the Caribbean Magazine Plus, you'll see the story, you'll see the analysis that we put up there as well. And the latest murder was a man, a young father, who killed his wife and his child. And it's inexplicable what happened to it. And there are hundreds of people still left missing in Trinidad that's not being classified as murder. And so Trinidad is in crisis, y'all. Trinidad is in crisis. The whole Caribbean is in crisis. This crime wave is tremendously heartbreaking. From St. Vincent and the Grenadines straight up to the Turks and Caicos Islands. The Caribbean is reeling right now from a crime wave. And we really need this law, this U.S. law that's going to block, arms getting into the Caribbean region. We really need that, Letitia James, the Attorney General of New York. We really need that. And we really need the Mexico and the other Caribbean countries to succeed in their lawsuit against the U.S. Gun Manufacturing Association. And we really need them to really be held to account. And to start bringing on all these guns into our region, man. Because we don't make guns. America makes guns. And Europe makes guns. But we don't make any guns. But yet our people are dying right left and center. That's over 418 murders in Trinidad up to August. Trending up to 700 murders for December 31st. Man, you got to do something about that, man. You have to do something about it. That's just madness. And speaking of Caribbean, we have the interview that Vice President Kamala Harris, as you know, she has Jamaican parentage. Her father is Jamaican, Donald Harris. He's a former Stanford University economist, Jamaican in descent. And so she had an interview on Fox News, and I've gotten some feedback from it. And people are saying that they went there just to be combative and trolling. But I'll let you listen to pieces of it from Fox News analysis of that debate. Let's go to it right now.
Well, it was must-see TV last night. Bret Baier pressed Vice President Kamala Harris on everything from the border to the economy to Joe's mental fitness during her first formal sit-down interview with Fox News as vice president.
And with less than 3 weeks to the election day, the Democratic nominee trying to make the case that she offers a new way forward despite being in power the last 3.5 years.
If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
So it was a tense interview at times as Harris tried to dodge some questions and point the blame toward Donald Trump. Toward the end of the interview, though, Bret says it had to quickly be wrapped up after her team signaled to him to stop.
There are
Jim, that
critics
they feel-
who look at what the administration did and say and think differently. Madam Vice President, they're wrapping me very hard here. I hope you got to say what you wanted to say about Donald Trump. There are a lot of things.
There's more to say. I have
there,
much more
there
to
are
say.
A lot, Madam Vice President,
And
they're giving me a hard rap
Well,
here.
I thank you for the time.
Okay. Prior to that moment, Harris faced several tough, direct questions like how her presidency would differ from the current Biden-Harris administration.
So, you're not Joe Biden, you're not Donald Trump, but nothing comes to mind that you would do differently?
Let me be very clear. My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency. And like every new president that comes into office, I will bring my life experiences, my professional experiences, and fresh and new ideas. I represent a new generation of leadership. I, for example, am someone who has not spent the majority of my career in Washington, D.C.
Your campaign slogan is a new way forward, and it's time to turn the page. You've been vice president for 3.5 years, so what are you turning the page from?
Well, first of all, turning the page from the last decade in which we have been burdened with the kind of rhetoric coming from Donald Trump that has been designed and implemented to divide our country and have Americans literally point fingers at each other.
Madam Vice President, more than 70% of people
that is
tell
about turning the
pollsters-
page on rhetoric that people are frankly exhausted of, Brett.
You've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade,
But you're
people
the
have
lever of
become.
power.
But listen, over the last decade, it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me, the former chief of staff to the president, Donald Trump, former defense secretaries, national security advisor, and his vice president, one, that he is unfit to serve, that he is unstable, that he is dangerous.
So when we had Brett.
Wow, I mean, she goes on about Trump. That's ridiculous, man. She goes on about Trump. And she can't answer questions about her own policies and what she's going to do to move America forward. I mean, I've been on record. I know that she's probably not going to win. It's not because she's a black woman. It's because she's just not capable. She's not fit to do it. She doesn't have anything to offer the American people. And that's dangerous. At least Trump has a plan. Let's go back and listen to the rest of it.
Bear on yesterday to preview the big conversation with Kamala Harris. One of the things I noted is that what Bret Baier is really good when it comes down to the research. And we saw that yesterday because it was question after question based on her record and prior statements. And I got to be honest, she didn't meet the moment in the sense of having a response to those questions, but I think it was a better format for Kamala Harris versus some of the softball interviews that she's gotten. At least she rose to the occasion in the sense of wanting to fight back. And so if you're on the left, maybe you applaud her. But if you're someone that's been waiting for the big interview, then you thank Bret Baier for asking those tough questions.
I was glad he pressed her on, you've been the one that's been in office for 3.5 years. And then it was almost that moment where she said, but I haven't been to Europe either. When she said, but Donald Trump was running. He said, but you're the one in office. You're the one that we're turning to for change. You want to turn the page. But this is what you've stood for. He said in 2019, when you ran for president, you wanted to allow immigrants to apply for driver's licenses, free tuition, free health care. Do you still support that? Kamala said, that was 5 years ago. I will follow the laws. And then Brett said, but you chose Tim Walz as your running mate. And he signed all of this into state law. So do you support this? She hesitated and she said, we are clear. We will support federal law.
Right. And, you know,
which means nothing.
Right.
Yesterday, when Brett was on with us, as you alluded to, Lawrence,
Changed the law.
We talked a little bit about how she is a known filibusterer.
Yes.
And we saw it.
And as soon as he asked the first question, and she went into an answer that we've heard a million times, it was like she was reading a teleprompter. About 20 seconds in, he tried to refocus her on the actual question. And it was back and forth the whole time. I'll tell you this. If you and your family set this up as a drinking game before it started, and you said, okay, every time she says Donald Trump, I'm going to take a shot, you would have been so
Smashed.
Yeah,
Smashed.
That's a good word. I would say 10 minutes in, because every time the going got tough, she went to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I think the campaign said, we want to be able to say we've done a tough interview. Okay, they checked that box. They also say, Tim Walz has done a couple of interviews on Fox News Sunday back to back. The campaign, Brian Fallon put out a statement and he said that they reached an audience last night that do not hear a lot directly from her, and she showed her toughness. So I think they think it was a win.
But the question that really I think is going to be played everywhere was when Bret Baier asked a direct question, when did you know about the diminished faculties of the current president of the United States?
And she turned it.
And that's important right there. When did they know? I mean, it was clear that Joe Biden was going through dementia, and it's sad too, And people think that dementia is just, this forgetfulness every now and then. No, it's severe. It's severely debilitating, man. It's severely debilitating to go through dementia. And it's clear that he was going through dementia. It's cruel to put him through that.
Donald Trump.
And she went to Donald Trump, and there was a huge pause there, as if she was not expecting that question.
Yeah.
But the answer was not sufficient enough, especially when what we witnessed, Ainsley, on the debate stage.
Right. Well, and I was watching Bret last night on Sean's show, and Sean was saying, you were supposed to do this interview at 5. He said she didn't walk out until 5:17. She knew he had a live show at 6 o'clock.
Right.
She knew that he had to turn this. We had to get it into the tape room so that we could push play on that at 6 o'clock. She knew how stressful that would be for the staff, the team, and she knew she could eat into some of her time that she had promised Bret Baier. Bret said we were supposed to have 25 minutes, and she only gave us 20 minutes. And he said, I don't like interrupting, but I had to interrupt a lot because she was filibustering. She just kept talking and talking about things I wasn't necessarily asking her about. He said, so I had to interrupt. But he said, if I hadn't interrupted, we would have probably gotten 4 questions in, 5 minutes per question. He said, so I had 75 questions prepared.
Right. He was very well prepared, and he asked a lot of questions throughout the 26 minutes. One of the ways that Donald Trump has really made some hay in the last couple of weeks is with an ad talking about how she supports surgery for prisoners, gender-changing surgery. And he asked her about that. And once again, she started an answer, and then she mentioned Donald Trump. Watch.
So are you still in support of using taxpayer dollars to help prison inmates or detained illegal aliens to transition to another gender?
I will follow the law, and it's a law that Donald Trump actually followed. You're probably familiar with, now it's a public report, that under Donald Trump's administration, these surgeries were available on a medical necessity basis to people in the federal prison system. And I think, frankly, that ad from the Trump campaign is a little bit of like throwing stones when you're living in a glass house.
The Trump aides say that he never advocated for that prison policy, and no gender transition surgeries
you got to
happened
take
during
responsible for what
his
happened
presidency.
in your administration.
Yeah, no surgeries happened in this presidency.
It's in black and white.
Would you still advocate for using taxpayer dollars for gender reassignment surgeries?
I will follow the law.
Obviously, she didn't answer, Ainsley, the yes or no question, which is, do you support taxpayer funds going to gender reassignment? But that, she always traps herself. That last line, you got to take responsibility for what happens in your administration. So the border, the 8-some million folks that have come across the border, the record inflation in this country, grocery prices going up, an economy that is not bouncing back. Maybe if you like the stock market, then you're happy with it. But if you're going to the grocery store, is she responsible since this is her administration?
Yeah, she keeps saying, I'll follow the law. I'll follow the law in the gender transitioning surgeries and prison. I'll follow the law when it comes to the border. Well, you have access to the law if you're the vice president. If you're running for president and you become president, you can change the laws.
Right.
There are executive orders, and they did away with most of Donald Trump's executive orders when it came to immigration. And Bret knows the facts, and Bret really pressed her on this and said, what about immigration? How many have crossed the border under your administration? She couldn't answer that. She pivoted and changed the subject. But she mentioned the amnesty bill again. And Bret said that would have given 11 million illegals amnesty, a pathway to citizenship. Because when she's asked about immigration, on day one, right after hours with within us taking the oath, we tried to pass the U.S. Citizenship Act. And then that's when Brett said that would have allowed 11 million people to get citizenship. That's an amnesty bill. And then she started talking about the bipartisan border bill that Donald Trump blamed it on Donald Trump, that it never passed. And Brett said, but Democrats voted against it. And Democrats had problems with it. And that would have allowed 1.8 million illegals to be allowed in our country every year. That is not closing the border.
So the question is, after the 26-minute interview, how many people who are watching Fox or saw the clips would actually say, you know, I was undecided, I'm going to change my mind? We've talked a little bit about how there are so few. There's just a narrow little sliver of the electorate that is undecided. But what's interesting, Fox News came out with a brand new poll yesterday, and it had some good news for Donald Trump. He is now leading her by 2. She was ahead by 2 in the last poll. But what's interesting, in the Fox poll, it says that 10% of his supporters and 10% about 10% of his supporters and about 10% of her supporters might change their mind. So ultimately, they took a high-risk gamble to come on Fox and get a great grilling by the great Bret Baier. Did she change any minds? It's interesting because earlier in the day, she appeared on stage there in Pennsylvania with a bunch of Republicans who said, okay, we're supporting her. One other fact from the Fox News poll is 20% of non-MAGA Republicans apparently are going to vote for her. The balance of them are going to vote for him.
And there you have it. You know, that's the Fox take. Of course, there are several other news organizations as well that have given their take from CBS to ABC, you know, talking about how Kamala Harris really performed. And no one had anything good to say, but they didn't bash her. And it's clear she was trying to run away from the issues that Bret Baier was trying to bring up on Fox News. And she wanted to make it about Trump, Donald Trump, just beating down Donald Trump. I don't think that was a good strategy because you're talking about a man, you know, right directly to his supporters, okay, who love him dearly. And that's not going to win you anything, you know. That's not going to get you anywhere. And I think that was a silly strategy. And I think it made her look really weak and really bad. Just keep hopping about Trump. You know, can you imagine someone going to your mother right now and them telling your mother all sorts of bad things about you and just keep on hopping on you? How's your mother going to take that? No, your mother loves you, right? She's not going to take that in any degree whatsoever. And so that's really where it is. And the interview really was a meaningless interview, you know. They got to know substance. And that's like the rest of her other interviews as well. It gets to know substance of who she is and what she stands for. That's a bunch of, you know, obfuscation and foolishness. But anyway, let's go back to the top of our show. We talked about the French island of Martinique. They're going through protests now over these cost of living increases on the island. And they've been imposed, a curfew has been imposed, rather, between 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. this week. And it's ending on Monday coming, the October 21st. And so they've been tearing up Martinique. And it's been going on for the past week now. We also have the protests now in Dominica, okay, where the truckers, the Tipper Truckers Association, they're being, you know, pissed off at the amount of money they've been getting from doing the work on the airport road in Dominica. And so they've been tearing things up, and, you know, Roosevelt Skerritt's, the Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerritt's police, he's been putting tear gas on the truckers in Dominica. And we talk about how Roosevelt Skerritt just goes overboard with this police brutality against his own people in Dominica. And that has to stop. And we believe that the truckers, they have a right to protest. And there's a Chinese contractor that's building the airport, rather. And, you know, they're pissed off that the Chinese are really lowballing them. It's really sickening, man. We also spoke about the Trinidadian murder rate that could go up to 700 this year. They're up to 418 as of August, the last time the Trinidad Police Force put any statistics. And so it's trending up to be a very, very, very high murder count. If it's going to be 700, it's going to be very close to 700. It's going to be definitely over 650, for sure. And we believe, if you go to Caribbean Magazine Plus, you will see our analysis on the Trinidadian murder rate. And so that's how it is. And then we also had a good story. Leonard Blavatnik, Leonard Blavatnik, a British-Ukrainian investor and billionaire. He's putting in about $275 million into the Four Seasons Resort in Paradise Island in Nassau, Bahamas. That's a lot of money for the Four Seasons. But of course, you know, Blavatnik is doing it through a company called Two Roads Development out of Florida, and they're really doing all the work on his behalf. But it's not without any controversy because, like I said, Access Industries, that's owned by Blavatnik, they've been, blocking off beach access, the very coveted beach access to the famous Cabbage Beach on Paradise Island. And he put up a fence last year that blocked all the vendors and all the beachgoers from going into the beach, Cabbage Beach on Paradise Island. The protesters, they tore it down and said, don't ever put a fence back here ever again. And of course, towns have cooled down now. I've been back on the beach since that incident last year. And so we just want to say, we just want to see what's going to happen now with the construction. What's going to happen when they start to build and to do the renovations on the Four Seasons over at Paradise Island. How is that going to react? How's that going to take shape now? Are they going to block that access off again? Who knows? We'll have to wait and see what Blavatnik does. And we also had the Fox News interview with Kamala Harris. It is what it is. She's not fit to run. She's not fit to be president of the United States. She's not fit to do anything, man. It's just quite a shame that we have to go through this again with her. She's just not fit. She's not fit. That's just where it is. And a lot of black American women are going to have their hearts broken because they think that she has a chance. She really doesn't have a chance. She's just not there. As grotesque as Donald Trump may be to some people, you're going to have to deal with another Donald Trump presidency. Okay, that's our show for tonight. I thank you for joining us again from the Lion Vibe Live podcast. If you have not done so, please like, share, and subscribe to our Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch page, Lion Vibe 77. That's Lion Vibe 77 on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And we look forward to you again next week, Friday, with another lively, provocative show here on the Lion Vibe Live podcast. I'm your host, Yori Araman Kemp. Enjoy your weekend. Goodbye.
Lion Vibe.